Nancy Dalton, Margot Sappington, Alice Playten, Joy Dunbar,
Larry Fuller, Carolyn Kirsch,
Karen Baker. Now, Larry Fuller was roommates with Michael through a lot of this period, so he gets the right to just butt in when he wants to and say, All right, the first job he had as a choreographer for a Broadway show was called The Joyful Noise. It was a product of Jack Lenny. It was going to stock to break in, and then it was coming to Broadway. It was not a success. Everything about it was minor except for Michael Bennett's dancers and dancing. And Joy, could you tell us a little bit about that? I know there was a jig that...
it was a clog dance.
A clog dance.
Michael did many numbers in the show, about 3 or 4 very heavy dance numbers. And the showstopper was the clog number. And Bjork was on one end of the stage with Winston, and I was on the opposite end with Alan Peterson. And we each had to come up with a certain style, and their style was very flamboyant and out, and Alan and I came up with the idea we wanted to glide. And so there we did, we just floated around the stage. And I know when we chose it, Michael said, "Are you sure you want to glide?" When we said, "Of course we do." You know, why not? Little did we know what it was going to do to our backs. We had to stay in this one position for the entire number, which was about 6 minutes, I believe. Yes, right?
So he was already thinking of character as he was choreographing.
Yes, at that point.
All right, and then
it was, yeah.
What other dances were in it? I mean, I know that it
we did a square dance, if I recall, real swinging square dance type number. And then there was a number, which I do recall, was we were all singing a very, I think we were in robes, right? Somewhere on a platform. And it was supposed to be a spiritual number at that point. And then in the middle of it, we threw off our robes, and there we were dressed in the skimpiest of bikinis that you could, a bikini outfit that you could ever imagine, and these huge feathered hat pieces, and that was a showstopper too.
Were you aware that this young man was so talented at that
Yes,
point?
It was quite obvious that.
Quite obvious?
Yes, very obvious from day one.
All right,
that
Larry,
he was going to be successful.
You know something about Sardi's.
Oh yes.
Yeah, well, I was Michael's guest at the opening night, one of his guests, and so I went ahead to Sardi's before Michael got there, and almost everybody was there. He certainly knew how to time an entrance, and all the leads were coming in, and everybody was getting a nice hand. This was on the main floor of Sardi's, where they used to, at that time, still do opening night parties. And when Michael came in, it started from the front of the restaurant, of the room, and you could see this wave coming back, and people started standing and applauding and screaming. He got a standing ovation. The entire room stood up for him. And, I mean, I thought, wow, that is really something.
How old was he now, Larry?
He was probably 23 or so, 22, something like that.
It was 1966, A Joyful Noise.
So that was, what, he was born in 43, so he's 23.
My God.
Amazing, absolutely amazing.
I just wanted to say that Michael put every single step he ever did in his life in that show.
Yes, he did. Right. You're right.
I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, we were doing knee slides. We did everything. We did everything the boys did.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of going to Dr. Baccarat.
Yes.
Yeah, Michael got me there too.
Did the square dance start in slow motion?
Yes, it did.
I've
It
never
did.
forgotten that.
Yes,
I remember
we
seeing
started.
that. I never forgot it.
Michael made stage magic more than any single human being. I just can't believe all the magic he made. Now, you guys were nominated for a Tony Award.
Yes, and I also would like to add that we closed on Christmas Eve, but we were, the clog dance was performed on the Ed Sullivan Show after we closed.
Oh, no kidding.
And we also cut the cast album after the show closed. So it probably was already in the works, but...
Also, his agent, Jack Lenny, did something wonderful. It changed directors many times, and
Yes.
at one point, I think he was called in to maybe take over direction, and Jack Lenny said, don't put your name on this as a director because you'll get blamed for the book and you'll get blamed for the flaws, and stay with the choreography, and he did, and look what happened. All right, the second Broadway show, Alice Playten, Henry Sweet Henry. What did you... And anyone that saw that met a star right there. What did you think of him? Were you aware of his...
I guess because I had seen A Joyful Noise, and which I remembered seeing Bjork-Lee in particular, because there was this powerful, tiny little woman on stage, there, I'm going to come back to, but wasn't Leland Palmer in A Joyful? Yeah, because Leland, he gave Leland a particular step that involved her being thrown in the air, which I had for a few minutes in Poor Little Person, until I think it was Gene Castle or somebody dropped me. And everybody said, okay, that's out, that's out. And I said, no, I really liked doing it. I loved standing in the wings and running across the stage and just leaping and thinking, looking out at the audience thinking, they've never seen this. I mean, the idea that I did it the night before, it didn't matter to me. There was something so exhilarating about doing this motion and, throwing it up there. So I wish they hadn't dropped me, but I've lived to tell the story, so perhaps it's okay. But that was a step that was actually in A Joyful Noise that I remembered, the recycling. One thing about the first number that I had in the show, Nobody Steps on Caffreys, that was actually the only number I had in the show. The Poor Little Person was added out of town when it seemed that the audience would like to have another number. So, but when I first heard the song, I remembered Nobody Steps on Caffreys, I thought, well, this will either get cut or stop the show, because it's sort of, the show could live with or without it. And we were working on it, and Bob Merrill, who wrote the score, had said to me, and I didn't exactly know what this meant, but I sort of did. He said, I always envisioned this as sort of Lottie Lenya, with her foot on a chair singing, this is who I am, kind of thing. And then I started working with Michael on it, and he gave me a lot of steps. He gave me a lot of steps. He sort of said, you'll come center stage, you'll breathe. And I thought, okay, I won't tell you to plie before you jump. Don't tell me to breathe before I sing. But it was, so we had this thing. So, and the number was sort of okay, but it wasn't really, working the way people thought. It had some great stuff. He gave me this goose step that was insane. But, and every day we'd work a little more on it, or not maybe every day, but we kept working on it to make it better. And I said to him, I think maybe there's too many steps. And he said, okay, do what you want, and left the room. And this was pretty terrifying, but I did now have the rehearsal room to myself and a pianist. And so I thought, okay, so I edited some of the choreography and did some of what sort of had been suggested to me by Bob Merrill, and kept some really great stuff in there that Michael gave. And then the number worked better that night, and then Michael came back and said, okay, now I know what to do. And then he really, he really fashioned the number now brilliantly, and it stopped the show.
Worked off of other people, that's great.
Yeah, but I mean, at first it was he was a little pissed off at me, and I was terrified that I had done that.